Hey everyone, welcome back for another quick fix video on something that you own. Today it's my 2015 Polaris Slingshot. We're going to be replacing the brake pressure switches that allow you to use your cruise control and to get rid of that awful brake failure light that comes up on your dash. They look a little something like this. They're ridiculously expensive at about $130 a pair, depending on where you get them from. There's not much to them and they're super lightweight and kind of cheap feeling, but we need it if we want to go on a long trip and use cruise control. They're attached off of the main cylinder down here on the back side, so we do have to actually take off our air intake and of course drain it out. So that's what we're going to do now. So after getting my intake off, I realized that we have to take off the throttle body as well. So we're just going to go ahead and remove that, and before you go any further, if you don't have a torque wrench, this is the point where you want to make sure you have one accessible, because this is the first set of bolts that we're going to undo that are going to need torqued. Also, make sure you shove something in there so that you don't drop anything down there. Same goes when you take it off. So now I have the throttle body off and I'm still not happy. I think I'm going to take the entire air intake, or sorry, the manifold off here, and I'm going to actually get at it like that. In an effort to be thorough, I'm going to tell you right now how to get this little tube off. On the back side there's a little nub. You push the nub to the back and it lifts right off. When you go to do this sensor here, just take the wire off. You don't have to worry about messing with taking the sensor off. Alright, now that we got the manifold out of the way, some fun facts for you here. If you ever do an oil change, you do the same process. Here's your oil filter. If you ever get an error code for the NOx sensor, that's like the 65551 error code, that's actually down here. I did that already. It was super easy. You need to go to the dealer to get that code cleared on some years, and guess what? That just happens to be one of those years, so it works, but I don't have the code cleared. So here we go. Now I can get full access to underneath of this cross member here, and we're going to go ahead, and the next step is kind of an unknown to me, so I'll come back with a better explanation. So my plan to drain it from the bottom didn't quite work, so I decided to drain it from the top anyway. Now, the way that they would tell you to do this online is to get a turkey baster and get as much out as you can. I didn't have a turkey baster, nor could I find anything that seemed to work for me. So what I did is I used a small piece of this here, I don't know what you want to call it, aquarium tubing, and I'm siphoning it down into just a small dish. I did the same with the front, and I set the dish right there. It's working, it works fine. Alright, well, it was a bit of a struggle, but here we are. I had to dig deep into the box of tools. It is a 7/8 wrench that I came up with. It's the only thing that I had that would fit it. It might be a metric equivalent, maybe 22 or 23, but I didn't have that on hand. So I came in with the wrench from the front there, just got one like quarter rotation, and it actually comes unseated really easily. It's a good reminder not to tighten it down too much. And then I was able to actually go in with my hands and turn it, because I could not get that wrench back on for a second turn. And then here's what it looks like when it comes out. It's attached to the line. You take the two washers off and the line off, and you replace it and put it back in with the new one. But I'm going to do the next one first. Take it out first so that I can make sure I can reach it, because I don't think I can get anything directly on the top. I don't even have a 7/8 spark plug, maybe socket, that I could use. So if I find something, I'll let you know, but right now this is the best we got. So I got both of the old ones out. They are possibly replacements, so this might be a second replacement for this 2015, but as I'm putting together the new ones, I noticed something that I figured I'd share with you. This here is how you want to put on that first of the washers, which goes on the side facing the actual sensor here, and you can see that it sits all the way down like that. Now when you try to put it on the first time, it may sit like this because it's a little tough to get over that bump, that collar that's there, but you want to make sure you push it down and get it over that first collar there. It'll focus here, that first collar, so that you don't accidentally like torque it on crooked like that and break the seal. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. In fact, as I'm saying that and I go to look at the old one, I noticed, look at that, there it is. They mucked it up right there as they were doing it. So there's that black seal over the top of that collar. Maybe that's the cause of the failure, maybe not, we'll never know. Alright, I skipped ahead a little bit. I've got the new sensors in. Not much to really see there, but they are in. They went right back in the way they came out. The kit comes with some grease. You put those on the O-rings if you want. I tend to do it with my own grease here. I don't use the little package stuff because I never know how long it is. But we're all set there. So the next thing we got to do is bleed the brakes. Yes, you have to bleed the brakes. There is no other way around it. If you were really lucky, you'd have a reverse brake bleed system, and you could do it really quickly, but unfortunately that's not the case here. There's one of the sensors right there, and the hose comes out the front, and there's a slot for it, and then the back one, the hose goes straight down. I don't know, I'll just draggle that there. It's too dark, there's nothing there. But the hose goes straight down and there's a slot for that. They are a little tricky because the tolerances are pretty tight to get in there, so just be careful and don't mess up the threads. So just to save you from having to go to a different video to learn about bleeding the brakes, here's where we are. You get your .4 brake fluid. Why .4? Because that's what the manual says for the Slingshot. You go ahead and open it. Trick right there, 2 holes, one big one, one small one. Keeps it from glugging, you know what I mean, if you've gotten there. My method is to go ahead and fill up both of them, but only one at a time, because obviously the front and the back are separate on this bike with this reservoir. So you fill them up, you put the caps on, then you go around, and you have your second half, which in this case is a bottle with a hose hooked up to what is affectionately called the nipple on the brake caliper there. We will then open the nipple, and we will sit in the bike and press on the brake pedal as many times as we think. But the key is this hose has to be up above the nipple at some point. So this air line comes up here. So if a bubble comes out, it gets trapped up in here. And if we push hard enough, it'll actually push it into the bottle, but it gets trapped up here in the top. And the other thing that we want to be sure of is that, and as we're doing this, our brake fluid level is going to go down. And if we drain that too far, we're going to suck air in, and we got to start all over again. So there's 2 things you got to worry about. I would say that I would usually go about 3 to 5 pumps on the brake, and then I would open it up and refill it. That'll get it down to that about low mark. So that's what I'm going to do. And then every now and then you got to, of course, replace the or drain the fluid out of this. Actually, now that I think of it, I'm glad I talked about this because I almost forgot. You have to put some brake fluid in here, into this bottle, to cover up the end of the hose. So I have to do that now. I've done so many brake bleeds on this, I forgot to mention that it's the front reservoir that does the back wheel, and the back reservoir does the 2 opposing front wheels. And to do a brake bleed, you start at the one furthest from this cylinder, so the back, then we go to the next furthest one, which is the passenger side, and then this one on the driver's side. We do it in that order. Alright, so you get finished bleeding the brakes, and everybody always asks, how much do you bleed the brakes? Well, in this case, you do have kind of a barometer. So however much fluid you put in is what you want to kind of get out, because that means that it went all the way through the system. So that's what I did. But what I actually noticed is that you have some noticeable feedback as you're doing it on this particular vehicle, in that it'll go from that really mushy kind of nothing to suddenly it'll feel like fluid pushing through a straw. And I feel like there's a good point there where that happens, and it's excessive. It's like 2 or 3 refills of the reservoir, but it does work. So now we're going to put everything back together. This is the part where I say you needed your torque wrench, because these bolts that go into the manifold and the manifold that holds itself onto the bike vehicle itself, it's very small. It's 89 inch-pounds or 10 Newton meters. And to give you an idea, I have what I use here, and you can see that the 89 inch-pounds and 10 Newton meters is off the scale on this one, but I have to use this one because the other one that I have starts at 10 inch-pounds, or 10 Newton meters, and 100 inch-pounds. So we're going to have to just basically use this. It worked last time, didn't have any issues, and I can see from the marks and everything on here that it looks okay. I might clean it up a little bit this time, but so far, all good. Let's get it back together. Alright, now we have it all back together here. We'll do just a quick checklist for you and make sure you got everything in. You had the 4 bolts on the throttle body there. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the intake, plus the 2 nuts there, all to 10 Newton meters. That's a good enough number, don't need to over tighten it. You have 1 vacuum line sensor, 1 map sensor, 1 temperature sensor, I believe, and your throttle body control here. We had all of our wires here, and we did not forget to put the 2 wires back into the sensors that we just replaced. I'm saying that because I did, but I didn't. You know what I mean? I will not admit to anything. We made sure that these are topped off between the marks on the side. Everything was cleaned off and good. We should be good to go from here. let's see if it works.